What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to show you the simplest, most effective way to perform state management in a Flutter app. We're going to use the Provider plugin. You can find the link in the description below. Provider is one of Google's third-party favorite plugins and enables you to perform production-ready, high-quality state management in few lines of code. Let's get it on. Let's see what we have here. We start with the classic Flutter example. We have the floating button, we have the center body, and a very simple scaffold. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to change the behavior of this app. Right now we have a widget in the same page that makes a state update. As you can see, there is the increment counter, set state, and this is very easy, very linear, and changes the state of these widgets, the my homepage state. But as you may know, Flutter app can become very nested. You can have widgets that are children of other widgets and so forth and so on. So it is important to have a centralized way of handling, of managing state. And that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing that we're going to do is to create another, a clone of this floating action button. And so we're going to create our custom floating button. So let's start with creating a new file. So since I'm very lazy, I'm going to copy this widget here, and then we're going to modify everything afterwards. So we import the material library, everything goes away. Now we don't want this full page, so I just want this little widget here. So we remove everything we had before. We put this comma here, and we have our custom button. Just to make it a little bit customized, we can change the color. For example, we can make it green. So we will notice the difference later on. Now we still need to change the name of everything. So I press Ctrl F, I replace everything, and I call it custom button and change all occurrences. So the system will recognize that we're using something, another class. Now, we are going to change this floating action button. Let's see if I put a container here, you will see the UI change. See, it disappeared. Now, let's put our custom button here, custom button. It will automatically import, it should automatically import. But of course, we have a title. There is this parameter I forgot to remove. Let's go. Now everything is okay. And yes, after a hot reload, we can see that we have now successfully created a new widget. Fantastic. But now we are going to see a problem. If we click this button, we see that nothing happens. I mean, I didn't show you the classic example, but I think if you have ever done a Flutter app, you know what I'm talking about. What we want now is that this this widget is able from below the tree to change the state of this number that is upper in the widget tree. And there are many ways to do it, of course. Now we're going to start by using the provider plugin. So first thing first, we need to install the provider plugin. So we go in our YAML file and we import it. Perfect. Now we can use the provider library in our project. As you can see, the custom button still has the old methods here. We are not going to need them anymore. And of course, here there will be an error because there is no method anymore. Let's keep it empty for now. Just putting this placeholder in order to not get an error. So, just as a brief explanation, how is this provider going to work? We're going to wrap the higher level widget in our widget tree with a widget called change notifier provider. And this change notifier provider will be the father widget of all the widgets where we are going to need the state management. And this is very important because it will take care of broadcasting, we can call it listeners, and all the functionalities that is going to be needed in order to broadcast back all the changes in the state in the widget tree. So we can't use it only on the center because then the floating action button, our custom button, will be left out. So we're going to wrap everything with this widget. Okay, as you can see, the change notifier provider requires an additional parameter, and that is the create parameter. Now, the create parameter has one input parameter, that is the context, and what is going to be returned from this function, it's going to be either a value or a class. So what I like to do to keep, as before, the code clean, I like to split the code that I'm going to write into a separate class. So I'm going to write a class that is going to manage the state of our home page. And I'm going to make a separate class for that. So let's make a separate file here, and it's going to be main state. Oh well, let's call it home page state, it's more clear. Home page state. So now we're here. We remove everything. So here we have the state. We're going to have the state of our home page. So I'm going to add my homepage state class to the widget, change notifier provider. Now, as you can see, it's still giving an error, and that's because this class needs to extend the change notifier. Perfect. As you can see, the error is fixed, and we are not going to have any other issue whatsoever. Now, inside of this class, we're going to have our int value, and we set it at 0, so we don't need to use any nullable instruction. And we are going to create here a method that will be the increment value. This function will basically work like the setState function, just inside a separate class. So now, very simply put, every time we invoke this function, we are going to do value plus plus. That will be enough for a setState, but since we are using the change notifier requires a further step, and that is calling the function notify listeners. Inside our custom button that sits one level below the change notifier provider, we are going to do provider off, and we're going to cast it home page state. We need to import this library first, and then we're going to pass it the context and listen false. All we need to do here is to call the method. As you can see, now we are accessing the method and the values that homepage state provides. Now we could access directly the value, but is better to always access these values through method in order to keep the code cleaner and more reusable, and also to keep track of all the changes that our method, our state undergoes. Now, if we try our app, you will still see that nothing happens, of course, because we are not using this value. We are updating it, but we're not using it. To show you that what we did so far works, you can check what the print statement does. As you can see, it's actually working. We successfully managed to declare a class, define it here as a parameter in the change notifier provider, and then call a method contained in this class from a widget that it was one level below. Now, the last step will be to use this value. And to do so, we are going to have to make a slight change here to our text widget. So now we're going to use a consumer widget that, as you can imagine, consumes the value that our other widget provides. We're going to cast it as the homepage state, and then we're going to give it a builder. Now, this builder is going to have 3 parameters, and we can simply use context model, and that will be represent our class, and a child parameter, a widget parameter that we're not going to need here. And very simply, we can either use this notation to return a value, and we can create another widget and simply consumer widget. And we can stop here for now and see if everything works. And as you can see, we have a new widget that is successfully created and is consumer widget. Now, to actually use the value that we were trying to modify all along, instead of using the counter here, that we're not going to use anymore, we're going to use the model and use the value. And now, in our app, we are going to see 17. Of course, we still have the 0 here. We're going to remove it in order to make it clear. And the more we tap, the more the number goes up. As you can see, there is no latency. There is no loss in any important parameter when it comes to Flutter usage. And actually, I believe that the explanation that it took to tell you all of this is actually longer than what it takes to use this kind of structure. So, to recap, all you need to do to have modern and efficient state management in Flutter is to install the provider plugin, then create a separate class to manage the state of your widget, and this can go to any widget that you want. Just remember to keep the code clean. Then in your main page, in the widget that you actually want to use, wrap everything with a change notifier provider in the create parameter, pass the newly created class, and then you're ready to edit, to use the state. In the widget that has to do something on the widget, that has to provide a change, a state change, simply call provider off, cast it to the class that you are going to use for the state management, and then call the function that you created, whatever it may be, and then very simply in the other widget, consume these changes, these state changes, and your simply going to use a builder a parameter, pass it a function that returns a widget. So I hope this tutorial can be useful for you, and I hope that you're going to create amazing things with this. Let me know in the comment below what you think of this state management technique. If you have tips and advices on any other state management way that I should try and I should make a video about. And for anything, just leave a comment and I will be very happy to answer. Bye bye, everyone.